What is the worst thing you've overheard while pretending to be asleep? Freshman college roommate watching porn on his laptop wearing headphones. Humping his mattress like there's no tomorrow. My friends talking about going into my wallet later and steal my money and then leave before I notice. I kicked them out. Sleeping over at a friend's house when I was 14. All of us on the floor in living room. Couldn't sleep. Two of my friends, guy and girl, directly next to me start doing freaky things to each other. I was extremely shy and a couple of years younger than them, so I stayed quiet and hoped they'd stop. Had to listen to them for an hour while she made weird ass moaning squeaky noises and he was singing in a weird slightly whispery sinky voice. Matchbox 20 songs to her while he did whatever he was doing. That was last time I slept over at a friend's house. My grandparents won $10,000 at the casino. And they told all of their children. And presumably gave them some of that money. Except my dad. My dad is a stick, so I didn't tell him either. That I was dying with meningitis, but jokes on the doctors, I'm still kicking. My older brother in the next room, when he snuck a girl in. They had sex for about a minute, and then I could hear him apologizing for about 20. May not be the worst ever, but it's definitely the funniest. No wonder people at school think he's gay. My stepmom. Probably my dad's dementia screaming. Usually nothing is wrong, but he'll wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning to yell at God and grind his teeth. You never did get used to it. I was at my BF's apartment staying over. His roommate also happened to have some friends who were dating there as well. I was in my BF's room and they were sleeping in the living room. They were definitely ducking. Weirdest thing of it all were these literal banging sounds. Like someone was hitting the ducking wall. The whole time I had to piss like a mother ducker, but getting to the bathroom involved walking by the living room and I did not wanna risk it. When we woke up the next morning, someone had ripped a chunk out of one of the curtains and the TV remote was snapped in half. To this day I don't wanna know what the duck was going on in there. My then boyfriend opening up our bedroom door to show me off to his friends while I was sleeping. It was the middle of summer, so I was lying, but naked on our bed. He thought I was asleep. Huge fight occurred the next morning and we were not dating for long after that event. WTF man. I'm still pissed off about that. You knew I was naked. My mum's boyfriend sloppily trying to duck my mum all drunk as crap whilst we are all sharing the same ducking hotel room. I was 13. Not me. But my wife heard her boyfriend having sex with her best friend. This was obviously long before we met. My family were staying at a friend's house and had to share a room. My dad comes to bed hammered and says to my mum something along the lines of, "Does it impress you that I'm this drunk and can still perform?" I actually wanted to die. Probably the funniest was on a camping trip with the boys. I have sleep apnea and use a CPAP machine. I overheard a couple of my mates talking about smoking a joint and hotboxing me through the air intake of my CPAP machine. My mom having an affair with her fiance's best friend, who was married, in the same room that I was sleeping in. I was like 10 years old. Edit. Spelling. My roommate's one night stand dismount because his stick was hitting her bladder and she waddled off for a piss before getting back on top. My sister's soon to be fiance wanking while saying her name. I was a camp counselor. Two girls very much like to make hot or not lists. One of them suggested a male counselor was hot, and the other said he was saying mean things about me behind my back, which made him not hot. Hurt to hear that from my campers, but glad they supported me. My mom and aunt talking, thinking 10-year-old me was asleep. Aunt. Little runs _n_ ghosts is so cute. Mom. No. He's not very good looking at all. When I was a wee tot, I pretended to be asleep in the family room, so I wouldn't have to actually go to bed, and once my parents were distracted, I could keep watching TV. I then got to hear my dad proposition my mom for couch sex. It's been many years, so I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of hop on pop. My roommate and her FWB having loud, dirty talk sex. I'd just had my wisdom teeth out, and I think they assumed I was passed out on pain meds. My father telling my mother that sometimes he just wanted to kill me. I was 5 years old when I overheard this. Being that my dad was an alcoholic and full of rage, I believed him, and lived my entire childhood believing he was going to kill me. My mom on a payphone, begging her boyfriend for more heroin. Edit. My mom was driving around town late at night, probably trying to score, and I was sleeping in the passenger seat. She stopped at a parking lot. I woke up and pretended to be asleep. This was back when payphones were in convenience store parking lots everywhere. Mid-90s. Edit 2. Last I heard, my mom is clean and doing well enough. I haven't talked to her in almost 20 years. It's healthier for me that way. On a class trip, I heard a girl talk badly about me to the other girls in my room, saying I was a retard and too dumb to stand up for myself. She said the only reason she didn't bully me out of the school was because she needed me to help her with my homework. Then my best friend stood up for me. She said that I wasn't dumb and just a bit shy, and then told her to F off. The person in the bunk under me beating his stick like it owed him money. My sister got drunk, and I heard a loud thud, and she blacked out. Two of her friends and my mom and dad were shouting at each other, and they were saying to shut up cause they didn't want to wake me up, and they were all crying thinking she was dead, and I couldn't tell my sister I was happy she didn't die. Now I appreciate seeing her every week. Roommate's boyfriend and his friend came into my room when they thought I was asleep. It was warm, and I was sleeping naked with minimal blanket coverage. I froze and pretended to sleep. They proceeded to talk about my body and how it was anyone's type. Also how easily it was to drug ladies these days. Oh, and also the friend talked about how easy it would be to steal/sell my boyfriend's boat motor that he had stored in the room. Yeah, so they were kicked out, and friend became an ex-friend because she was pissed I'd let my boyfriend kick them out. My parents discussing whether or not I was gay, and exploring where they went wrong with raising me. Too many hugs. Edit. This really blew up, and I've got a lot of people wondering whether or not I'm gay. For the record, I'm straight, and have had sex with a bunch of girls. Take that, mom and dad. My dad and stepmom was having a foursome with a couple of their friends. We were at a summer house and they did it in the living room. I felt so uncomfortable eating breakfast the next day. My mom and I were sharing a hotel room on a trip and unfortunately only had one bed, so we had to share that too. As I was trying to fall asleep, I kept hearing the text tone from my mom's phone going off and her giggling. My parents hate each other, so I knew it wasn't my dad she was texting with. Curious. I opened my eyes just a little bit to see that she was flirting with other men while on a trip with her family, and I was in fact staring at a stick pic. I couldn't really go back to sleep after that. Parents talking about plans for when they were going to have sex. Had a bunk bed in college, and one night my girlfriend and I woke up to my roommate banging some chick on the top bunk. My girlfriend asked me what we should do, and I just mumbled just go back to sleep, because I figured saying something to them at the moment would make things much more awkward. He still doesn't know. Not the worst thing. Just reminded me of the time I shared a hotel room with my grandfather in AC, and he got up in the middle of the night to pee as old as do, and before he went back to sleep he said a prayer out loud for his late wife. Still gets me every time. When I was around 8 years old I was supposed to be asleep, but I snuck downstairs to get milk or something. I heard talking going on downstairs, so I stood still and listened. My mom was talking to my brother about how much of a problem I was, and how she hated me. She always liked my brother more. I just silently crept back upstairs, and cried myself to sleep. Good times. Well, my friends sucking each other's stick. They were 16. Old roommates planning to kick me out. When I was like 10 or 11 I visited my dad, and while we were watching a movie I tried to fall asleep, and I proceeded to hear him duck his GF on the bed I was trying to sleep on. When I woke up all I saw was clothes on the floor. I don't know why I didn't just get up and leave, but at least I fell asleep before it really started. Something like she's too old for this. I'm not going to carry her up to bed anymore. And that was the last time I was magically transported from the living room couch to my bedroom. Before I got divorced, was laying in bed late, 11 AM or so, on my day off. After a long string of I think 10 or so work days in a row, my ex, who refused to get a job, was in the next room playing a video game. And I heard him say that my third king witch is still sleeping. My Airbnb host having loud sex right outside my door. My walls were thin. I could hear almost anything. My parents argued in what they thought was a quiet voice about divorce. Then my dad says you can keep the kid. He annoys the F at and $sign out of me. The next week they told me and signed the papers. Edit. Thank you everyone for the kind words. It means a lot to me. I do not really miss him much. He was mentally abusive and verbally abusive. I would sneak out, but couldn't bring my mom. That was the hardest. I'm sad but also glad he is gone. Since I'm an adult I don't have to see him ever again. Another thing, thanks for the award. Edit again. Damn, thanks for both the awards. Rumored getting a blowjob. The worst part was when I heard him say I'm gonna come. Legit wanted to die. Parents divorce. When I was a kid, I was pretending to sleep in the car. I was in the backseat, next to my older sister. I was probably 6 or 7. So she would have been around 13. She let out a raunchy, all windows down, gag the rest of the car sort of fart. It was loud, but we were both in the back. She immediately blames it on me farting in my sleep. The whole car laughs and rolls down their windows. And I stayed asleep. No one to this day knows that it was her. And she still thinks she got away with it. I got you sees. Neighbor guy walking through the house with a couple of his friends showing them how we leave stuff laying around all the time. And it was easy to steal things from us without us knowing. My mom and stepdad talking mad crap about me. I was in high school and needed to start seeing the counselor for mental health issues. My parents were essentially making fun of me, saying that I wanted attention, and started mocking my voice saying, "No one understands me. I'm so mistreated." We could do it. She wouldn't tell anyone if we took photos of her first. I was called duck meat by a girl. Ex-boyfriend's mom absolutely tearing me apart over the phone. Never met the woman, but she saw a picture of me with her son at a tailgate. She didn't like how blonde my hair was, or how I smiled with a closed mouth. Needless to say I broke up soon after, because her son wasn't a great person. You can come on my tits or my belly, but not inside me. This was coming from the top bunk. I was on the bottom bunk. I snuck out, and went somewhere else. My parents discussing what a horrible monster I am. How I have no future. And I'm a total and utter failure. I got a C on a report card. My mom, her sister and their friend talking about sucking stick and sex. I was about 6, and in the next room. My parents are pretty straight-laced. Parents discussing the gift that Santa had got for me for Christmas. While I was undergoing anesthesia for surgery, but not quite out, I felt my gown being removed by the surgical team. As soon as my top was exposed, I heard a male voice say, "Wow. She's really developed." I was 14. Mom and dad were about to have sex. Oh, the horror. I was screaming inside. Glad mom said she was having her period. Then they were talking about divorce. They were so calm when talking about it. My mom telling my dad she had an affair with another guy, and that she wanted a divorce. That was 2 months ago. My grandma said she never had anything against blacks, but Mexicans however. Edit for context. This was in a car during a road trip. We are Texans. Trump wasn't president. I was young. She wasn't just hovering over my bed saying racist stuff. It so far has been the only racist thing I've heard her say. My ex and his friend joking about how easy it'd be to rape me while I was sleeping. While in kindergarten, I heard the teacher talking on her phone and saying that she doesn't feel comfortable having an Indian kid in her class. At the time I didn't understand why she hated me, but now I know. There's a little bit of heroin left in that syringe, if you want to try. I woke up to a friend and her husband arguing in the next room, because she'd walked in on him stroking my hair, while I slept on the couch. When my college roommate came at our room for the first time I was already there for a week, and I was sleeping at the time. But I heard him complaining to his mom about the space I got on the closet, and overall on our room. However, the next morning I very nicely asked him if had any problem about how I took advantage of the place, and he told me that there was no problem. Edit. Spelling. My friend and her boyfriend having sex while we were staying in a hotel room together. There were 2 beds and my boyfriend and I were on the other one. She was so drunk and her boyfriend was like, no, stop. They'll hear us. No. But he finally gave in. I kinda gave her crap about it later though. She later on ducked a different guy in my bed that same year during a party. We don't speak anymore. You just do it. It's not like she'll remember. She's asleep, it's okay to touch her last night. Nope, ta they're so ducking quick at it. Okay, so I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Holy duck, for those of you asking, yes I'm okay. I woke up the second I heard it, and pretended not to hear anything. I just went to the kitchen to get water, and call my mom. I was sleeping in my friend's room, while she was in the shower. Everything is okay. She understood and very upset about it. Thank you for all the nice comments. My friend masturbating in the bed we shared, when I stayed with her for our medical school graduation. So awkward. Actually, to be honest I felt the bed moving, before I heard her. Worse.